This episode is brought to you by Garden Cult, garden design and coaching. For a 15% discount on virtual garden consultations and coaching sessions, use code HRN15. Learn more at gardencult.com.
This episode is supported by Angry Orchard. HRN is teaming up with them to host a virtual event all about American cider. Check it out at heritageradionetwork.org/cider.
Welcome to the Grape Nation, your weekly wine journey. Our guest is Raj Parr. We'll talk to Raj about the pandemic, his wineries, climate change, and a lot more. I'm your host, Sam Ben-Ruby. Stay with us for the Grape Nation on the Heritage Radio Network. We bring wine to the people. What can I say about Raj Parr that hasn't been said before? Raj is the greatest uncertified sommelier in the world with the most revered palate. His career in hospitality spans the fifth floor of the Michael Mina Group, including RN74 and his BBG. He is the award-winning author of Secrets of Sommeliers and most recently, The Sommelier's Atlas of Wine. Raj is the founding partner, proprietor, and winemaker at Sandy, Evening Land, and Domaine de la Côte. Raj just got his ass out of Santa Barbara and moved up to Cambria to his own regenerative Phelan farm. Welcome back to the Grape Nation, Raj.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Raj, we're talking to you remotely via Zencaster. Where are you exactly right now?
I'm at home. I live in a little town on the coast of California called Cambria.
Okay. I want to talk to you about that. So you recently moved from Santa Barbara further north to Cambria.
Yeah.
Where you are now living on Phelan Farm. Before we get into Phelan Farm, because I want to spend, a little time with that, because that's a very interesting part of your life. I think people know who you are. I wouldn't mind if you spent a couple of minutes, and not a ton of time, just talking about, the wine properties. Talk to me about Sandy, Evening Land, and Domaine de la Côte, and, what you're doing there and what's going on. So people kind of have, a framed background to what you're doing before we get into Phelan.
Yeah. So, yes, me and my partner, Sashi Morman, we started Sandy in 2009, focusing on Chardonnay from the San Rita Hills, and then now we expanded to around Santa Barbara and also Central Coast. Then we have Domaine de la Côte, which we planted in 2007, and that focuses on Pinot Noir from the western edge of San Rita Hills in the town of Lompoc. And then since 2014, we've been taking care of and making the wines at Evening Land, the Seven Springs Vineyard in the Eola Hills and the Willamette Valley in Oregon. So those are the three wineries which me and Sashi have been managing and running starting from 2009.
Right. And then Domaine de la Côte.
Yeah, Domaine de la Côte, and also planted in 07, so we've been doing that, since the first vintage.
Those are prominently expressions of your love for Burgundy, through Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, right?
Yeah, definitely Chardonnay and Pinot Noir have been two grapes I've been working with since 2009, and we continue that. And yes, it's something.
Is Domaine de la Côte exclusively Pinot?
There's a little bit of Chardonnay, and then soon to be releasing a little bit of sparkling wine.
Right. And the beautiful thing about your wineries is they're all, top quality. And they're all accessible in different ways, whether it's restaurants or your mailing list or retail. and the price points, vary to hit, every wine lover, from sort of entry to, fancy schmancy pants. So those are the wineries. I was just curious, we're going to talk about Phelan Farm, but you spend, let me ask this question after. So now let's talk about Phelan Farm. You were close to, what was it, Sandy and Domaine de la Côte when you were in Santa Barbara, and you recently moved up to Cambria, as we discussed or mentioned, to Phelan Farm, right? So
Yeah.
tell me why you packed it in and you moved to Phelan Farm. I mean, there had to be a desire or a reason. What triggered that?
Well, there's many different reasons. It's not only one reason, but as we were growing Sandy, we had a hard time getting Santa Barbara County fruit for the basic wine for the wine we produce the most of, and then we started looking at vineyards up in Edna Valley, Arroyo Grande, and in the Central Coast, and then since 2019 we started making more wine from vineyards in the Central Coast near San Luis Obispo and Arroyo Grande than we did in the San Rita Hills. The quantity was more, even though our best wines still come from San Rita Hills. So I was spending more time driving an hour and a half, and I lived in Santa Barbara, so which was driving the other way. And I decided that I should probably live somewhere closer to the vineyards I look after. And then we also had Phelan Farm, which is a property which is we've been working with since 2016, and it was always a part of the Sandy program, but it was just a small part which we blended into the cuvées. And I started grafting other varieties on here since 2017, and then by 2020, we had grafted most of the varieties I wanted on these 4 parcels, 11 and a half acres in 4 parcels. And I decided to personally lease it and kind of spend my time farming it. So I farmed the vineyards myself with the help of a person who lives on the property. I live 10 minutes away from the farm. And
Okay.
It's 4 parcels. We just planted an apple orchard. We're doing it right now, actually. Today we started doing it this morning, but tomorrow should be planted. And we have a bunch of animals. We have sheep and dogs and chickens and yeah. So that's yeah.
Have you? So you started grafting, and after grafting for years, you basically converted 11 acres plus, into what you wanted to graft. You felt like you should be there, right? I mean, one of the. When you talk about animals and you talk about all the other stuff, I mean, are you trying to, sort of be regenerative? I mean, are you changing the way you do things at other places? Not changing the way, but you're trying to create a specific environment there?
Yeah, it's quite different than anything else. We follow the biodynamic principles. We live by the regenerative, organic, I'm not looking for a certification right now, but just following what I've learned and read and spoken to people about. So, and then of course being totally organic and totally free of any chemicals. We don't spray anything except what we can put in our bodies, and they use animals to mimic nature, and use herbal remedies and holistic sprays and all these things to kind of nurture the land and stay connected.
What was the property under pressure from previous care, where pesticides were used or a lot of tilling, or it wasn't in bad shape? You're just trying to make it even that much better. Yeah,
it wasn't in bad shape at all. It's been no till since '07. It's all ungrafted vines. It was all owned Pinot Noir, which is I've just grafted over it. It was organic for the first 5-6 years, and then there was some herbicides used for 4 years, and then we took it back to organic again. And then since 2021, it's organic plus plus.
Right. Now, in a good way, this smacks of a couple of people that I think you and I know and admire. Nate Reddy seems to be doing this, at a certain level. And even not far from you, I think the Tablas Creek people have committed to regenerative farming, officially. I mean, are those guys that you look towards, talk to?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Nate's been a friend for, 20 years. Tablas Creek, I visited them for the first time just when I moved here. Mimi Castile in Oregon, Jason Jardine in Hansel, Dan Rinke in Oregon. I mean, there's many people. I didn't wake up one day and said, oh yeah, I can do this. I've been talking to people and learning from people and trying to implement it at the best of my knowledge. We are also in a very unique climate here. We are on the Central Coast, only 3 miles from the ocean, so it's really cold and foggy, and it's a very unique place.
Cold and foggy for the kind of wines you like and want to make. Is that good climate for you?
Yeah, I think, cool climate is always a good place to be, because if you're growing the varieties are grown in places that are cool and wet, and it rains a whole lot more here in Cambria than it does in Santa Barbara, for example. And we don't have a need to irrigate, and we can kind of, do things at a different pace. And yeah, it's just a unique place. It's so close to the ocean. Today it's cloudy and foggy day right now. Today's high is probably like 64, and we are already in May, so it's yeah.
Right. Does the rain create, a mildew problem, where you have to look for alternative, ways to deal with that versus a Santa Barbara?
This has been a dry year, so we did have probably 25 inches of rain this year, but it all came in very big lots. It wasn't spread out over 4 months. It happened all in like.
Didn't you have like a crazy storm with like 10 plus inches or something?
Yeah, we had a crazy storm in January. So, and
have you ever seen anything like that there?
No, it flooded a quarter of one of the vineyards, and all the sand. People are like, "Why is your vineyard so sandy?" I'm like, "This sand just came after the rain, because we are just above a creek, so when it rains, it could easily flood part of the vineyard. So it was, and hence we don't have to irrigate just because we are just above a creek."
Does that, when you said that the vineyard was flooded, does that ruin or screw up the vineyard, or once everything sort of drains down, it's okay? I mean, what happens with that?
Yeah, nothing. It's just the creek overflows, and it didn't destroy any of the vines, didn't destroy anything else. It just kind of brought a lot of the sand from this creek up to the vineyard. So it looks like part of the vineyard is very sandy, but right. It's not.
Do you just leave it? I mean, you can't do anything, right?
Yeah, no, just leave it the way it is. It's just the cover crop grew like crazy. And the parts where flooded, the cover crop was 6-7 feet tall. Jesus. So yeah.
Jesus. One last question on Phelan. So I had Tegan on about a month ago or so, and I think his Instagram handle is Own Rooted. Now, isn't Own Rooted plants, vines, whatever, that are ungrafted?
Yeah.
Is that what that means or not?
Yeah, it means ungrafted. Yeah, it means that there's no...
Right.
There's
so
no
you're
rootstocks.
grafting because you want to introduce different varietals?
Yeah, so the whole vineyard is planted to Pinot Noir. So the rootstock is of Pinot Noir, which is Vinus vinifera, and right. I'm grafting other varieties on top of own-rooted Pinot Noir, which makes it still own-rooted. It's still susceptible to phylloxera.
Oh, okay.
And it's still risky business, but it's quite secluded. There's no vineyards around it. We keep we keep all our equipment. If we borrow equipment, we make sure we clean it really carefully. So we are still in danger of getting phylloxera, but we try to be as careful as possible.
Right. So, in the other vineyards, which are, specific, not particular, they lean towards Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. Here, because of the grafting, are you doing a lot of field blends, and are you living vicariously through this vineyard, where you could plant, all these grapes that you've admired?
Yeah, there is.
Tell me about what's out there.
Yeah, so the first parcel, which is on kind of a rocky quartz and pebbles, that has Chardonnay 2 acres, and the rest of 2 acres is divided. There's a little bit of pink Chardonnay, which is a mutation of Chardonnay from the Jura, so it's pink skinned, and a few rows of that. And then we have kind of a field blend of Mencia, Trousseau, Palomino, Mission, and Garnacha Tintorera, and that becomes one wine, which is kind of inspiration of a wine which Envinate makes called Misturado.
Envinati.
Yeah.
Roberto.
Yeah. So that's an inspiration behind from that wine. That's a field blend. The next vineyard is it has Pinot Noir, Gamay, and Mondos. And
nice.
That's going to be one wine, which is called...
That's going to be killer.
Yeah, it's going to be called Autrement, which is a wine inspired by a Savoie producer by the name of Jacques Maillet, and now the Quartet family. They make the wine, so I asked the permission if I could use that name for that wine. And then the third parcel is kind of slightly steeper and has some pure clay, and that has Sauvignon Vert, Sauvignon Jaune, and Pulsar. And there's different selections there mostly from Tissot, Mackel, Auvernois, and Ganua. And that's going to be 2 wines, one Sauvignon and one Pulsar. And then the last parcel is Mondos. And then there's a co-planting of Granger, Altesse, and Jacquer, which we are still in the process of slowly...
Those are Savoie varieties, right?
Yeah, so there'll be like a one white and one red from there.
Nice. I was going to talk to you a little later on, about the wine club, but I think it ties into this question. And we can talk about it a little more later, but you have a wine club where you offer, the subscribers an opportunity for interesting wines. The wines are pretty much outside of the Pinot Noir Chardonnay thing.
Yeah.
Not exclusively, but, there's a lot of other ones. Is Phelan one of the suppliers, or will be, for the wine club, or you have to go to other sites for wine club wines?
Yeah, so the wine club was like my alter ego of...
Right.
Because I was like, Pinot Noir Chardonnay is great, but I'm curious about other varieties. And so we used some other vineyards around, and then Phelan in the past. From 2021, Phelan Farm will have its own label, its own entity. All the 100% of the grapes from Phelan Farm will be used for the Phelan Farm label. There'll be a different entity totally. The Rajat Parr Wine Club wines will still exist, but will come from the other vineyards you've worked with in the past, not from Phelan Farm.
So both of those opportunities give you that latitude. And we just talked about what you're planting, at Phelan, to work with virtually anything you want, right? Which is terrific.
Yeah, exactly. And I only want to work with vineyards I'm fully committed, and I can control in the sense of this. I believe in the same idea of organic plus, and idea of being connected with the place and the grapes and the people who are behind the farming, because that's what matters the most.
Right. Clear up one thing for me. Phelan Farm, you're going to give it their own label, even though there is a Phelan family and leaving Phelans. This will be your label under your control, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The Phelan family has a great story. It's a great family, and I'm blessed to have be able to work with their vineyards and have a long-term lease with the family. They homestead here in 1851, and Greg Phelan and Pat, his father, they kind of run the ranch and this entire 1,100 acre ranch. And I leased these vineyards from them and the apple orchard, the land from them. And of course they own it. And I asked the permission to use their name to give this place identity, because everything needs, it's not me, I'll be gone, and the place will still be, and it'll be part of the family. And if the family wants to, do other things with this entity, and it's all about collaboration and building something special, because Cambria is fairly unknown, and if you come to Cambria,
everybody will start hearing of it now. The apple orchards, are you doing any co-ferments or any ciders? I mean, any interest in that?
Yeah, I mean, this is all cider apples I've planted, and a few pear trees. The idea is definitely to do mostly co-ferments. I'm not sure I'll make a pure cider, but it'll be a co-ferment. So I'm going to ferment different grapes with the cider, and then also have a medicinal herb plants I'm calling it more of a forest garden, because it's going to be apple trees planted in a chakra in circles, and then vines in between them, and then just kind of a medicinal garden with different herbs, which I'll use for the co-ferment and use for my spray program for the vines, and kind of you make it more of a, just like a garden. It's going to be called after my goddaughter Vera. So
you get to sort of set up the farm and design it from the ground up the way you want, as much as you can, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's nice. again to kind of create its own ecology and its own kind of place.
So all this sounds terrific. What I'm just curious about, and I think you kind of mentioned it in passing, I mean, Cambridge's in the middle of nowhere. I mean, so basically, it's not a lot of people around. I mean, I'm sure friends come to visit, hang out, stay, but I mean, it's not the type of place like Santa Barbara, which people are coming through. Is that a little different to you?
Yeah, for sure. It's fine. I'm so busy I can barely get through my day, so I'm not, if someone comes and visits, it's great, but.
Is a lot of that busy out in Phelan, or, I know you have to take care of all the other, vineyards, but right now is a lot of your time, hours during the day doing the Phelan stuff? Yeah,
I would say probably, right now in the initial days, because I do the farming myself, I do the sprays myself. I'm there every day doing something. We prune the whole vineyard ourselves with a few friends, and now we're shoot thinning ourselves with, just a few people, and just me and whoever comes and helps, and so it's full. It's fully kind of
nice.
So it's not we don't get too many. We have some people helping if we need to kind of, finish the job. But mostly it's Abad, who lives in the property here.
And you enjoy, I mean, the sort of the solitude, and that you're doing everything. That's very pleasurable to you.
Yeah, it's very zen, because there's no phone service there, and there's no internet. So it's very
it's
kind
pretty
of
cool.
Yeah. So
I intimated this to you in an email, but I want to do almost like a side series thing for the Grape Nation. I want to do a bunch of shows on harvest, and I'm throwing this idea, and I'm not asking you to commit to it or even respond, but I would love to come out there during harvest and really get in the dirt and do a series of shows, really on the ground type of thing. That's just an idea, and I'll follow up with you, because I think because of the project you're doing and what you're doing there, I think it would make a fun podcast series.
Come anytime you come here, or any other farm, any other living vineyard farm, you'll always find things every day. There's not a single day. It's like oh yeah, we got to turn the compost pile, or we have to go and move the animals, or there's always something happening. It's all
enough to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Raj, it would be hard not to talk to anyone without talking about the pandemic, the past year, what effects. So for you, for Phelan, and maybe because of the pandemic is why you eventually got to Phelan, your other properties that we talked about, how has life been during the pandemic? And, has it changed the way you want to do or have to do your business?
Oh, the day I moved from San Francisco to Santa Barbara 8 years ago, that was like a 180 change in my life. And then from Santa Barbara to Phelan and Cambria, it's another 180. So where I was in 2013 to where I am today, it's a complete 360. I've gone all the way around and come back to, what I really wanted to do. And the first few months for everyone was very scary, and not knowing, what's going to happen, when's it going to end, how is it going to end, and I think everyone did their part, and it was a struggle for everyone. It wasn't,
So you were able, knock on wood, health wise, good, but business wise. The 3 vineyards and even, the operation at Phelan continued. Were you doing more mailing lists, direct to consumer? How did that work out?
Yeah, just been, we were lucky that people knew us and people have had the wine. So we had, me and Sashi had spent so much time traveling and talking about what we're doing, and people kind of believed and kind of kept us in business. And we really kind of were grateful for everyone who contributed and bought wine from us and engaged with us, and we kept all our employees and gave everyone
all the harvests, which were in the thick of the pandemic, September, October last year. You were able to get the people you needed, and everybody was okay.
Yeah, it was definitely the hardest vintage for all of us who worked it, because we were in pods and stayed together and try to kind of keep everything.
Right.
Because if one of us got sick, then we'd have to. We were just so it was very hard. We had everyone. Our whole intern team was switched around. We got another team, and it was great. We were grateful to have made it through. The wines are amazing, even though California, we struggled as a whole. The state struggled with smoke and fires. Oregon, we struggled with smoke and fire. Traumatic harvest overall for the entire state and the entire West Coast.
Yeah,
made it through. Just kind of focused inwards and try to kind of do the best we could. We made probably the best wines we ever made at Domaine de la Côte. But as a whole, the state suffered. So Santa Barbara wasn't affected as much with smoke, but the North Coast was. So all in all, it was a hard one. But
while we're on bummer topics, California did experience the worst effects, of, I guess you'd label it climate change. I don't want to say global warming, just the drought and the fires, were beyond. So you got through it, and, the wines seem good. Is this the way things are going year in, year out? Is this going to change the way you farm and make wines? Just trying to understand and anticipate the climate around you?
Yeah, we have to make personal changes in our own lives, and whatever that is,
Yeah.
For me, from traveling 200,000 miles and adding to the
carbon footprint
to flying, I don't know, I'm going to Oregon next week, I guess, or 2 weeks. So that's like, I drove to Oregon 3 times during the harvest season. It's just to look into yourself and what you can do, and everyone should be growing something in their backyard. Everyone should be trying to eat things around them. Everyone should be planting something.
So in a post-pandemic life, do you, when things resume to some kind of normal, do you see yourself doing less of certain things like traveling by plane, running to every event? I mean, now that you've survived not doing it, does that mean you could do less and, contribute to the environment that way?
Oh, I mean, I'm not going anywhere. I mean, I can't go anywhere. I don't have the capacity. I don't want to. I have to be here. And if I leave, who's going to tend to the vines and the animals?
But Raj, you have the 3 other wineries and you're in very much high demand. You probably have more opportunities pre-pandemic to be at places than you can go to. It'll morph back into that post-pandemic. You're just not going to handle it the way you used to. You're going to do less of it, right?
No, I'm doing none of it. Less of it is not an option.
Till further notice?
Till I can't even imagine where.
So I'm not going to see you in New York, at anything then, right? So that's good. I'll have to come out and visit you.
Yeah, you'll definitely not see me in New York. That's
okay. Good.
Yeah.
When do you? This is a silly question, but I just want to get your take on it. When do you see, a movement towards at least a little more normalcy? Do you have any feel for that? I mean, are we getting close to it? Are we starting to get out of it in relation to you and wine and the business?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we don't know exactly how things will pan out. People are just. I'm sure at some point they'll go out of control and try to go everywhere and do things. I don't know. I don't know how far it is. I think maybe after the summer we'll kind of figure it out and see how how the vaccine actually works and if there's.
It's also early.
Yeah, it's a little early. I mean, all of us should still wear masks if you're in public inside and still kind of be careful because we don't know that much and we are taking a lot just
So what's the rush? I agree with that. The Earth's atmosphere actually cleaned itself up in this past year because of less emissions and less industrial, which is kind of cool. Raji, we got to take a quick break. We're talking to Raj Parr. Raj Parr is the proprietor and winemaker at Sandy, Evening Land, and Domaine de la Côte, and his exciting, I guess you could call it new wine, new project, Phelan Farm. You're listening to the Grape Nation on Heritage Radio Network. When we come back, we'll talk to Raj about a bunch of other exciting things.
This episode is brought to you by Garden Cult, garden design and coaching. Carmen DeVito is a professional garden designer, certified New York State landscape professional, and the founder of Garden Cult. You may also know her from HRN's home gardening videos and our series, We Dig Plants. Garden Cult is a culmination of Carmen's more than 2 decades of experience designing and building gardens in New York City. Carmen believes that gardens and outdoor spaces should be healthy, environmentally sustainable places that enhance the health of people, nature, and the planet. She knows how to help you maximize the space you've got, help you work with and make the most of the materials, plants, and trees that you already have, and create an outdoor place to use and enjoy for you and your family. Get started at gardencult.com. For a 15% discount on virtual garden consultations and coaching sessions, use code HRN15 through September 30th, 2021. That's code HRN15 at gardencult.com.
This episode is supported by Angry Orchard. I'm Jimmy Carboni, host of Beer Sessions Radio, and I'll be moderating an amazing virtual event with Angry Orchard and Heritage Radio Network on May 26th. We'll be celebrating the release of the new first-of-its-kind book, American Cider, A Modern Guide to a Historic Beverage. I'll be in conversations with the authors, Daniel Pucci and Craig Cavallo. Then we'll welcome Angry Orchard head cider maker Ryan Burke for myth-busting about this beverage and an interactive cider tasting. When you order a ticket, you'll also receive a copy of the book. Visit heritageradionetwork.org/cider. Plus, you'll find a link to purchase a hand-selected cider bundle from Angry Orchard so you can taste along with us. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org/cider.
Okay, we're back. We're back with my guest, Raj Parr. Raj, no secret you've been a long time Burgundy lover. But you committed pretty heavily a life to making wine in California and Oregon. And we talked about all the other varietals. But when you get back to, Burgundy or Burgundian varietals, Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, what are the parallels that you have found with Burgundy, California, and Oregon? Obviously, there's got to be some. Otherwise, you would have just thrown your arms up and said, "This ain't working."
No, it's hard to even compare because Burgundy is the benchmark. It's the soils are the most uniquely different than anything else outside of Burgundy. Just the plant material, everything is just it's basically the benchmark of all benchmarks for Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. I would throw in the Jura also because they also make Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, and they have a unique, but more clay than limestone compared to Burgundy. If you bring in Oregon, I guess it's the closest in comparison in the north.
More than California, right?
Yeah, I think it's more similar because of the latitude and the growing season, the continental climate. And then on the California coast, that's the only place Pinot Noir, which is where it should be grown. It's maritime climate, so it's very different. We have much less fluctuation in vintages. It's drier in the summer and the growing season. Very interesting soils, but very. It's a very different experience.
It's about the terroir, which is you can't replicate it. But one of the things that we've passively been talking about, which I think is as important or more important than ever, is that wine, the product, wine making, is all about the farming and the vineyards and the practices. Yeah. And it's always been that, but I think people have become more even woke to that. I mean, would you agree?
100%, absolutely.
With sustainable farming, regenerative, more and more people are doing that. I mean, enough aren't, but, more and more are. And I think Balin and making the wines gave you an opportunity to be in the vineyards, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, it's been an amazing journey, and it's just the beginning. So I'm super excited to see what keeps coming.
In doing research and reading about you, even your books, you talk about trying to figure out what this is, a next level of California winemaking. What is that? And in essence, have we talked about it, the last half hour?
I mean, it's a personal thing for different people. It's a different thing,
I'm interested in you.
Yeah. For me, it comes back to the reflection of each person in what they do in their own winery, their own vineyard. I guess winemaking is probably the easiest part of the equation, and maybe 5 years ago, I used to think winemaking is the end all do all, and now I think it's not. I think it's the vineyard work. It's how you prune and how you treat your soil and what you spray, and those things are more important.
That was my point before. I mean, do you agree that Burgundy, that the best Burgundy guys pretty much, were farmers? I mean, they were very close to the land, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is more of, not the wine itself, but the Burgundian model of, making the wine, where the field is that much important.
Yeah, no, 100%, absolutely.
Now, would next level also mean getting away from what people perceive California as, which is the big cab, some Merlot, a little Pinot, is it, new varietals, stuff that Mathiasen and Dan Petrosky and, Teagan, all these guys are doing. Is that next level?
Absolutely. I mean, everyone's input is the intention, is the work in really kind of defining the place is important. Absolutely.
Yeah. It'll be exciting to see what comes out of this. Raj, I've probably asked this question a dozen times on the Grape Nation, and it's obvious why. But I want your take on it. And why do sommeliers become winemakers? And what was your reason? No, I did not ever try to imitate someone, though. Michael Bonacorsi was definitely someone I looked up to. He was the first person after Larry Stone. Larry Stone also made wine in the late 90s, I guess mid 90s. Was he making wine when he was at Rubicon?
Yeah, Larry. I think Larry.
He was.
Yeah, Larry made.
I thought it was later on.
No, mid 90s. He made a label called Sarita. But it was more, for me, the journey started because a friend of mine told me once, you can't make, whole cluster of Syrah in California. So that's how it started. And so I'll make a little bit and see. And then I just kept going deeper and deeper in the rabbit hole. And here we are today, 20 years later. Almost.
So it was with you, it was more dabbling. Like it was more, you were so, like I said, you're, basically uncertified and as good as anyone, but your interest was so deep. You were, about whole cluster Syrah that you just had to go out and try it, right? It wasn't necessarily I'm standing on my feet 14 hours a day and got to get out of here. It was more inquisitive, right?
Yeah, it was definitely not. I had no plan. If you had told me, 20 years ago that I'll be farming a vineyard and living in Cambria and making wine, I'll be like, you're crazy.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you something. If you told me this 2 years ago, raw wine or something, I would say, yeah, okay, see you then, It is very interesting. So, in a way, have you found your nirvana at Phelan Farm?
I think it's just warming up, just starting. So, it's going to be a while till we kind of find, because you got to, it's a dance. You dance with Mother Nature. You kind of see how, you can't just come in and say, I know what's going on. Let me take control. You can't take control. You got to just, watch.
Right. Will you be able to attend to the other vineyards the way you did and the way that it's needed? Domaine de la Côte, Sande.
Yeah. Well, I never farmed Domaine de la Côte. I never, Sande is all mostly from Grape Fille.
Right.
So I oversaw, the farming at some of the vineyards, and Sashi and Chris King, they were more involved in Domaine de la Côte, and Jessica Cortel, and this is not something. It's not my forte. It's not something we are doing in other places. I'm doing it just my way, by myself here in Cambria, and let's see what happens. I have no idea. Maybe the wine is complete shit. Maybe the vineyard complete gets.
I'm going to guess no, but you never know. I mean, you get a lot of curveballs thrown at you. You already got flooded, a hailstorm. You see what happened in Europe, as we were talking about climate change. I wanted to focus on California, the frosts and everything.
We had frost here 4 times. We had to, the only thing is we have overhead sprinklers, so we kind of use the sprinklers, and we were at, we were down, I don't know what the Celsius is, but we were down to 29.
Was that unusual, or that happens every few years? I mean, was that a stretch that was?
It happens every year here at Cambria.
It does. Okay.
It's just,
so you're prepared for it. You just hope it's not too bad or too long.
Yeah, our bud break is slightly later than further south, and we just, again, these things happen all the time. It's just France is Europe. All of Europe got hit pretty hard this year.
Italy got hit. I saw France in many regions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's not easy. I think people will have to make decisions of how they will prevent this from happening. And sometimes, due to the old-fashioned laws you have, you can't, do certain things in your vines. And yeah, it's everyone has to adapt and kind of try to see how we can get ahead of this.
So this is always kind of a silly question, but based on the fact that you just got in there and there's a lot of work to do, I mean, where do you see yourself in like 2, 3, 5 years, even further out, making that exactly the place you want it to be? I mean, how do you look at the future?
I don't. At this point, I don't. Again, as I said, this is a dance with Mother Nature, so I'm just starting to understand how things grow.
But you're determined to stay in the dance on the dance floor.
Oh, I just signed
do some good moves, and
I just signed a lease that's going to be my lifetime, so I'm not going anywhere.
Oh, okay. So that you can answer the question. I mean, you committed to the property because you signed a lease. You're ready to dance with Mother Nature, which you don't know, what's going to be. So that's where people can expect, and all these, wines and field blends and, projects are going to pop out. I know you made wine with Marie Ponsonet Veyron. Are you still doing that, Colette?
Oh, yeah, for sure. We unfortunately lost our 2020 to smoke.
Oh,
we made some white wine this year just to kind of have some wine.
Right. I'm sorry to hear that.
It's all of California, so it is.
Are you involved in other projects like that?
No, just Marie is a dear friend, and
right.
and
but I know you help people, at other wineries and stuff, right?
Yeah, no, I definitely do some friendly consulting, a little consulting for other projects. Yeah, absolutely. It's always fun to be involved in different things.
Yeah. Your most recent book, The Sommelier's Atlas of Taste, which we had you on the show when it came out to talk about it. I just want you to know that it's become a core reference book for the Grape Nation podcast research.
Amazing.
It's sort of like when I'm having a guest, why not check in Raj's book, to read about the region and, specific winemakers. It's kind of timeless, that book. Are you thinking about or working on any other books, or is that crazy?
No.
That required travel, right? The book?
Oh, yeah. The book was an amazing, me and Jordan had a great time, but that book took so much time. I don't think I'll ever have that much time again. So, yeah.
Yeah. The days of writing a book and committing to that are nowhere in the future, right?
No, I can barely get through my day. But
you're okay with that, right? I mean, there's nothing like gnawing at you that you want to write about or do. I mean, you that path is clear, right?
Oh yeah, no, I'm super happy and content. I've never been happier in my life, so it's all good.
I want to do a thing called the wine list with you because we do it every week with all guests. We ask them the same questions, and I'm sure people would love to hear. But before I ask you the wine list questions, I kind of forgot to ask you this question because he's such an integral part of what you do outside of Phelan. Where did you meet Sashi Mormon? You and Sashi, tend to the 3 other wineries.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear that story.
Yeah, no, Sashi, we met, he came to show me his wines when I was at Michael Mina in 2004.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What were his wines? I mean...
I think at that time he was showing me, he was making the wines at Stoltman.
Okay. Interesting.
And he had just made his first vintage, the Pedro Sassi, in 2003. And yeah, he came to show the wines, and that's how.
Did you like him more than the wines more than him, or everything?
No, I didn't like the wines at all. I made it very
Serious?
clear. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. No,
So how does that come together? Was he that good of a guy?
Oh, he's a great guy.
No, I know he is, but first blushes, guy comes in with crap wine, and you have this enduring relationship.
No,
with
but
him.
you have to understand, it wasn't craft wine. It was just my style. I've had the same palate, a very similar palate for a long time, and I was never shy telling someone if I didn't like the wine, especially when I was sommelier back in the day.
Right.
I think people remember that I might not like me because of that, but I was honest, and I just didn't like that big style. So over the years, everyone changes, and so did he, and we changed together in ways. And
well, you guys are making the wines that you both, want to drink and want to present to people. All right, let's do the wine list. I'm going to ask you 5 questions. Don't dwell on them. They don't have to be long, drawn out answers. I'll keep you focused. But the first question, and I know when you have people around, you're always drinking wine. I know you're always tasting wine. In the old house, I know you kept bottles above the fireplace or whatever, of choice bottles. So the question is, what are you drinking now? What's in the fridge? What's on the table? What are you experimenting with? What's current?
I drink a lot of different things. I'm always.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah, so I drink everything from Galicia, from like Nacho Gonzalez, who is become one of my favorites. Belluard from the Savoie. Tissot from the Jura.
Wait, say that again. From the Savoie, Raj.
Belluard.
Bell, because I'm gonna post everything.
Yeah, Belluard. Belluard.
Okay, Savoie. What else?
Tissot from the Jura.
Different Tissot.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's many producers. I got a lot of cuttings from him.
Do you, of course, go back to classic wines like old Cabs or Bordeaux, Barolos?
Yeah.
You do that more on occasion with friends.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll still drink Barolo and Barbaresco and Bordeaux less, but yes, I still kind of sometimes open a bottle of California Cabernet. It's and then Burgundy sometimes here and there, and whatever.
So you're drinking less Burgundy these days.
I can't. I drank most of mine. I can't afford them anymore. So
that's a tough problem, man. That's cool. All right. Second question. I know you love food. I know you love to cook. Obviously you were involved in restaurants. Your whole professional career up until winemaking. Silliest question of the 5, but favorite wine and food pairing. Raj Parr. Not what you think is a good one. What you like.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean you eat it every week, every night, but what just works?
We I guess we had a great Dungeness crab season here in California. So
what goes really well with that?
I love Chablis.
Okay.
A nice.
Does it have to be fancy pants stuff or village level? Give me a suggestion or two.
Yeah, I don't have any fancy pants Chablis. Pâté Loup. Thomas Picot makes a really good Chablis. Alice de Moore, just great little Chablis. Something crisp, fresh, no oak.
Yep, those are good ones.
Yeah.
All right. Third question, and this should be easy and hard for you to answer. Hard because there's probably so many and you probably don't want to leave anybody out, but easy because you should know it. Do you have a favorite wine restaurant and or bar? And I put that in the context of places that have the right wine list, have the right vibe, people that really can take you through all of that.
Wow, you caught me out of step here. I haven't been out in a long time.
Does anything stand out from the past days, whether it was Santa Barbara, New York, or San Fran?
Nothing really in Santa Barbara.
New York?
Yeah, seems like I was in New York like so many years ago. I can't even think
Yeah,
of.
I get that, and I'm not
I,
going to pressure you, but
I
would you
honestly can't
favor
even think.
places with more natural wines?
I guess maybe my last memory of great food and wine pre-pandemic was my last meal at Echebari on, I think it was on February 9th of 2020.
20?
And the
Like the
next
February
day,
before the pandemic?
well, it was pandemic. It was happening. I mean, I flew the next day to
Right.
Rome and flew back. Yeah, so that
Right,
was
right. But
that
I
was
mean, it
maybe,
really, in the States, it really got crazy in March.
yeah.
But
So
it
that
definitely
was
was happening.
yeah
So
that was
Etchebari, where
yeah
is
that
that?
it's in outside San Sebastian, maybe
Right.
my favorite restaurant in the world, and that meal
Isn't
was
that
just
where,
magic.
rest in peace, isn't that where Ned Benedict from Grand Cru had a birthday celebration, that area?
No, on the other coast.
Oh, okay. I thought it was. All right. So that answers that question. Fourth question. The question structured years and years ago was favorite all time wine. I'm sure you and I did this once, maybe twice. So that means you answered it at least once. Favorite all time wine initially was to prompt the guest to tell me what was the most rare, expensive wine you ever drank. The question has morphed more towards, who gives a crap about that? What's the wine that had an impact, on your life, career, that changed the way you think about wine or drink? I mean, are there a few wines that are, I guess, important wines to you?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking of now and these days, or
Yeah.
back in the back.
No, I think we go current. What are you thinking that way for now?
I mean, it's definitely, the Jura has played a big part. Recently I drank an '05 Overnois Pulsar, was completely life changing.
So the hype is real there.
Oh, 100%.
Okay. So an
It's
Auvenoir, an '05, a Pulsard. Give me
yeah,
one more
and
like that.
another wine which I've had before, but had it again recently. Chave Hermitage 91
That particular vintage.
and the Rouge. Yeah, it was vintage, which came after an epic vintage, and I drank it recently, and it was just
Right.
like, just like you feel the energy and the soul of the place and the person and the people behind it. It's
Yeah.
pretty
I
profound.
agree. We didn't talk much about the Northern Rhone. I mean, are you a fan of those wines?
This was 2020 was the first year I haven't tasted at
Going on.
Clap and Chave since 1998.
Wow. And based on, our talk this past hour, I'm not sure when you're getting there again. True?
True. I mean, if things
You
kind
can
of
get the wines.
yeah,
Maybe.
if things kind of go as we are hoping it'll go, I would make a trip in the
Right.
winter after the harvest, maybe in January or something, to visit a few friends, and I will need to take a break at one point.
Yeah, I think you will. And it would be good to see those guys. That day will come and you will imbibe on some good wines. All right,
Yeah.
here's the last question, and I think you can handle this, even though you're a winemaker and you make, fine wines, but you're in a restaurant. I always ask my guests, recommend the best wines to me for around 15 to 20 bucks. Give me a red, give me a white. And the backup on that question is I got kids in their 20s, mid-late 20s, and they can't afford to go to a party with a $8, $9 crappy supermarket wine, but they can't afford 40, 50. So how do you impress with 15, 20, 22 bucks? Red and a white. You can give me category, like Muscadet ain't a bad value for white. You can give me makers, regions, or whatever. What would you recommend in that area for a red and a white?
Wow.
Put your thinking cap on.
I don't even ever go to a wine shop. I guess, there's a wine, what's the name of that wine from Lisbon?
You know what? I will catch you off air. I'll email you.
Email me.
I'll remind you because I'll post it. Can you think of a white?
Yeah, that's a sommelier question, and I don't. Yeah. I barely ever. But I'm sure I'll have an answer. I'll have to actually just.
Raj, you're going like a freight train, and at the end you putter out. Couldn't answer the last question. What the hell's wrong with you? It's all right. I forgive you. All right, Raji, we got to wrap up. I told you an hour would go pretty fast. Let me do a quick wrap up, and then I want to get some info from you for our listeners. So if you have a question, suggestion, wine happening, or event, hit me up at sam@thegrapenation.com. That's Sam at the Grape Nation. Please subscribe to the Grape Nation podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you get your pods. Follow us on Facebook at The Grape Nation. On Instagram, a little different. We're at SBenRuby, and on Twitter, we're at BenRuby. But through both of those, you can reach us with the hashtag The Grape Nation. We're trying to build a community on Clubhouse, so follow us there at BenRuby. As I said a few minutes ago, we will post Raj's wine list answers on our social media sites. Probably early next week. Raj, I will follow up with you on that to fill in the last answer. And Raj, if people want to find out more about you and the wines, there's probably a few places to go. Let's talk about that. First, on social media, if people want to follow you, I think there's a Phelan Farm and Raj Parr. Tell me some social media handles.
It's, I guess, at Rajat Parr on Instagram.
Okay.
At Phelan Farms, plural, on Instagram. That's pretty much it. Raj Parr Wines for the wine club. And then,
Is it Raj Parr Wines?
Yeah, that's for the wine club. Yeah.
Okay. And then there's a beautiful website for each of, all you have to do is Google Sandhi, Sandhi, Google Evening Land, or Google Domaine de la Côte, Cote, and that'll bring you to all of those, right, Raj?
Exactly. All of them have, nice website where you can find about wines.
If you want mailing list and all that stuff, information, vintages, that type of stuff.
Exactly.
All right, Raj, I got to let you go. I'm very excited for your new project and your new life at Phelan. I wish you best of luck. I look forward to the wines that come out of there. I've been a collector for many years, and not that long ago, should have been sooner. Got on Domaine de la Côte and some of the other stuff earlier, so I've been enjoying those wines. I think I have a 3-liter sitting there of one of the wines. I'm waiting for that to crack it open. So I wish you good luck, good health. I will follow up with you for the wine list, and I'm very serious about doing a series, with Harvest, with something like that. So at the appropriate time, I'll follow up with you. So thank you to our guest, Raj Parr. Thank you to our engineer, Amanda, and everyone at the Heritage Radio Network. I'm Sam BenRuby, and you've been listening to The Grape Nation. The Grape Nation is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. For our freshest content, subscribe to our newsletter. Enter your email at the bottom of our website, heritageradionetwork.org. Connect with us on Instagram and Twitter at heritage_radio. You can also find us at facebook.com/Heritage Radio Network. Heritage Radio Network is a nonprofit organization driving conversations to make the world a better, fairer, more delicious place. And we couldn't do it without support from listeners like you. Want to be part of the food world's most innovative community? Subscribe to the shows you like, tell your friends, and please join the HRN family by becoming a member. Just click on the beating heart at the top right of our homepage. And thanks for listening.